working for you these days?
Well, Ted, you're not a newbie yourself. You're a fellow author of a book on LinkedIn, so I think we're quite equals in the space. And
We're the OGs, right?
the OGs. Good to see you sharing your thoughts and ideas in your book and on live streams like this and with your community. So thanks for the invitation.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
what's working these days? It's a combination of things because LinkedIn's been around for a decade and it still works, right? So hopefully, I know you're nodding. Hopefully, everyone else watching is nodding their head as well. It's funny. I was off Facebook for a few years. I just got back on it, and Facebook groups sort of remind me what LinkedIn groups used to be. Hey, Molly, welcome. LinkedIn groups really. I don't know if they're ever going to go back to what they used to be, but definitely Facebook groups of even like B2B spaces, I've been able to make some good relationships there. And just a reminder that, we always talk about the shiny new thing, but everybody's on Facebook and they may not spend as much time there, but obviously, and man, you start a live stream and then the phone rings. Okay. How does that work? So, you got your Instagram, you got your Twitter. If you're a content creator, you have podcasting, YouTube, and that's where I try to spend more and more time. And then you have the latest shiny new object, which is Clubhouse, which I've been spending a little bit more time on. And so far, so good. I think if you go in there, not with the idea of selling, but the idea of learning and connecting, like anything else in social media, it can be extremely valuable. I mean, if there's like a thought leader that you follow, you can, follow them, set up a notification, and then the notifications on the app work really well. Obviously, it's only for iPhone right now, but
yeah.
Let's say, the next time whoever Elon Musk starts a room, I want to be notified. You'll get that. And therefore, if there are certain people that you want to engage with, you'll know when they're online and the environment is very engaging, gives you the ability to learn from them and potentially even converse with them. So yes, that's where there's content creation activity. And then there's sort of like engagement activity, right? So the content creation is, I'm currently publishing 4 blog posts a week. I have a cadence now where I have strategic content on Mondays, tier 2 strategic content on Tuesdays. Wednesdays is just purely republishing. Ted, I'm going back into some of my old LinkedIn blog posts from like 2008, 9, and 10. And I'm updating them, right? I'm revising them, refreshing them, bringing in new information, and I'm republishing them. So it makes it a lot easier than creating new content. So I got that going. I got 2 podcasts going. The School of Influence, which I just started with a co-host, Amanda Russell. We do that once a week. And I have my own Maximize Your Social Influence podcast I do once a week. I get the email newsletter going out every week. And now I have a Clubhouse room. I don't have a room yet, but every Monday morning at 9, I go on and have a chat with people. So
you've got a schedule. That's not, you just jump on randomly. You have a time you're going on.
Yeah, I think with anything, I mean, Clubhouse, all the social media, I'm sort of in and out throughout the day. But with Clubhouse, it's like, and I tell people on my list, this is the hour. So Ted, I never did like a live stream like you. I never did a Twitter chat like a lot of people back in the day. I didn't want to be constrained to the same day and time. But with Clubhouse, it's because it's audio only. I could literally be in my underwear. No one's going to see me. Not that I've tempted to do that, but anyway, you get the picture. And that could be anywhere in the world, right? So it just takes the idea of live streaming, one step further. For me, it makes it just a lot easier. So yeah, that's a snapshot of what I've been up to. How have you been spending your days, and what's your routine look like?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the recycling old content. I interviewed Kim Garst last week.
Okay.
And she's pulling up posts from 2014. And some of them she's actually using the same post and recycling it on her Facebook page. And she had to have over 100,000 engagements on her Facebook page in 1 month, recycling old content.
Yep.
And some of the videos she made, she said, I made this video in PowerPoint. I was like, wow.
Wow, low tech. Good for her.
That stuff's working. The big buzz LinkedIn right now is there's so much going on. There's so much content coming out. It seems like they're starting to hold back on some of the content. Like if you're over posting 5 or 10 times a day, they're throttling you back. So I saw one interesting study say you should post maybe 3 times a week, no more than 30 times a month on LinkedIn.
Oh, really?
Because it's
Interesting.
just overwhelming.
It's supply and demand, right? It's the same thing with Facebook. And the minute everybody sees LinkedIn as being an attractive place to post content and get lots of engagement, then yeah, you got it. So, I mean, I had heard before, and I'm not, I really don't follow up on all this tactical stuff, in all honesty. But hey, you don't want to post more than once every 6 hours, because if you post twice within 6 hours, the second post just doesn't get sent out in the feed. But
Right.
so it wouldn't surprise me that they were, now they say, okay, once every 24 hours or what have you. So yeah, for me, I judge my success of social media by a few things, but part of it is website traffic. And I always get way more traffic from places like Twitter and Pinterest than I do from LinkedIn or Facebook.
Yeah.
So I sort of, I want to keep relevant there. And definitely on LinkedIn, I still continue to get more engagement than I get on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice place to keep engaged. And it may not be a lot of web traffic, but just, a like on a LinkedIn to me has a lot more value than a like on a Facebook.
Yeah.
So yeah, it still has value. I'm currently posting twice a day on LinkedIn. There might be some days I only post once, but yeah, I let my data guide me. Every 3 months, I take a look at the previous 3 months and I compare it to the 3 months before that. Mm-hmm. And I look at how often am I publishing and what's the website traffic. And, yeah, if you have great content, you'll get more traffic, but often it's just the algorithm. It's the frequency, right? And we're in the middle of Q1. So at the end of Q1, I'll take a look at that and keep that in mind. Right. I usually tell people, it's funny, I'm working with a company right now. They're a real estate agency, and there's like a beginner, intermediate, advanced. And my whole idea of an advanced posting frequency on LinkedIn is once a day. I think if you post once a day, that's plenty. That's, you can get a lot done. Right. So, but yeah, if you have really good content and you hold out for 2 or 3 times a week and you just put everything behind that, that's, you're basically forcing people in the feed to see that content, right? LinkedIn sees that as your most recent. Every time you publish something new, they stop promoting the old piece. So yeah, I can see how it would be. Even I've heard of people just posting once a week and getting amazing results. So a lot of different thought processes.
But yeah, you guys just test it and look at your results and adjust.
Exactly.
Most people don't look and see what actually worked. They just keep blasting more. They think, oh, I need more content.
Like, yeah. No. Automated tools and what have you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to only do once a day on LinkedIn. I saw so many people doing it more frequently. I'm like, okay, maybe I might get away with it. But yeah, if I have to lower the cadence, then that's something I have in my processes. And I'm the same with Kim. I regularly republish content, and I look at my data and I see what's done well, and I tend to republish that. I have I used to have 1,600 blog posts. I had a lot of contributors. I've pared that down now to like a little bit over 400, but that's a lot of content that I want to get out there. I want to share. Like every piece of content, adds value. So, it's a shame if people just think of promoting their new stuff when they have all this old stuff. And like I said, I have stuff from 2008 that's still floating out there that I'll share on social media today.
So how often do you try to drive people to your website from a post as opposed to just providing content on social media?
Man, it's like 100%. The value is in the content. The content's on my website, right? Okay. Or the content's in a podcast. So as a content creator, I just have so much going on. That's where now, if I didn't have a blog or I didn't have a podcast, I could write content. LinkedIn could become my micro blog, right? And I could focus that. That's never been my strategy. Just because I to me, the Google audience is much bigger than a LinkedIn audience.
Right.
And that's still my first priority. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll get caught up in conversations and I'll post stuff that's just pure content, ask for engagement and what have you. But I do very little of that, in all honesty. It's just, I need to be everywhere, and LinkedIn's only a part of it. It's never been in the early days, it was my central focus, but these days it really isn't. But it still has value in that way.
Yeah, we used to do the LinkedIn Pulse articles, and they'd get into Google searches, and it was great. And then
back in the day, at the very beginning, they were, got 100,000 views, and they still show up in Google searches. But yeah, if you want your website to rank and you post the same thing on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is more domain authority, so they're going to probably rank ahead of you. So I think you want to have a certain strategy as to what you publish on your website. Do you republish as is on LinkedIn? Do you take selected articles? Do you create new articles? Could probably have an hour discussion just on that strategy. But yeah, but I've published a few things. And I mean, what's really cool is that, these people have landed on your profile. So there's a footprint aspect.
Yeah.
And when they engage with it, that allows you to find more people to engage with that have an interest in you and your content. So LinkedIn definitely, when people come to your website and they leave, you never know. But with LinkedIn, you do have that, which is pretty cool.
So during this pandemic, I'm having a lot of luck reaching out to people, having conversations on LinkedIn. Not sales pitch messages, just short messages back and forth. I probably have 20 or 30 conversations going on at one time that go on for days sometimes, they'll back and forth.
Yeah, it really comes down to your objective. I have, as usual, there's people on LinkedIn. They seem interesting. Hey, Neil, you want to get on a call? And I'm a consultant first and foremost. I mean, before the pandemic, I was doing a lot more speaking, but man, I have work to do for clients, right? I get paid by the hour, and therefore I just don't have I don't have time to do random calls with people I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'll say, hey, I reserve phone for my paying clients, but more than happy to, if you have a question, I can point you to a blog post or, a question that I might be able to answer. Feel free to send me email. So I do messages like that. I stay away from the calls, and the Zoom meetings, because that, you only have 8 hours in a day, right? And if someone takes up an hour of it, that's 2.5% of your week. So I'm just very focused on. I'm sort of like a time Nazi. I'm just very focused on managing my time.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, why am I so late in writing my next book? Well, if I didn't do all those calls, I'd have more time to write my next book. So
right.
Time management is just so important. I think with this pandemic, it's even more important because it's so easy, like we're doing today, to jump on a live stream, right? And you could spend your entire day going into LinkedIn events and finding webinars and not achieving anything, right? Well, I mean, you might be learning something, meeting new people. There's value to that, but yeah, I think you really need to manage that. And that's why I've just built these processes over time, like the quarterly content cadence review, or that 3 blog posts or 4 blog posts a week, et cetera, just to try to create these compartments where it says, okay, during this time, I can be devoted to having this conversation with Ted, or doing something else. But I need my core time to get my work done. So
right. Yeah, I could block out time, but like little conversations, I limit it to people I know, former clients, people I worked with, or people I've met on live streams or virtual events. And that's working really well. I don't randomly reach out to people anymore on LinkedIn unless there's a reason. Like
yeah.
Not enough time.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I wish I had more time to have more conversations, because inevitably it ends up being, something good. But Ted, let me ask you, because you're a published author on LinkedIn and you're well known on the subject, you probably get a lot of people that want to tap into you. And like today, hey, we're building a new, I wrote a book on influencer marketing. Hey, we're building a new influencer marketing tool. We'd love to get your feedback. Do you have time for a 15-minute call? And it's like, I want to provide as a networker, I want to provide value, but that time is, they are taking my expertise to better sell their product, right? And so there's this concept of sort of, give and take, or provide equal value in networking. Mm-hmm. And I think the more authority you have and the more that you can give to other people, it gets harder and harder to get that back from most people that contact you. Now, if you said, Neil, we're building a tool, we're going to give you lifetime access, can I just get 15 minutes of your time to get to, then heck yeah, right? But It's never that way. It's always, hey, I had a quick question. Do you have an hour for a call? And so those are the ones that I'm talking about. The people that I know I make time for, obviously, but there's just way too much of that on LinkedIn. I think the more known you become, the more you have those. So Ted, I mean, I want to ask you, you must be in the same boat, right? I mean, do you handle those in a similar way?
But at least 10 people a day ask me if I need help with LinkedIn.
Oh, I love that. Neil, we noticed you don't do social media well. We can help you with your social media. Oh,
or they compliment you and they say, but, I love your website, but. ... That's the problem with LinkedIn right now. There's so many people just using automated software, blasting these templates at us based on a keyword in our profile.
Yep.
So when you take the time to actually have a real conversation with someone and show interest, they're like, oh, he's not selling me anything.
Yeah, well, you're not asking for anything exactly. I still have I call it a campaign, but I'm proactively reaching out to people in a certain space and just like, hey, just want to connect. We're both in the same industry. And I leave it at that. And I've always said, never tap into your connections unless you feel a need to.
Right.
So, but I always want to be digging my well before I'm thirsty. And just for the fact that we're connected, it sends the signal to the algorithm. They're a new connection. They might become a consumer of my content, what have you. So there's value there.
Yeah. Yeah. I've really I don't reach out to many new people unless I have a reason, unless I've met them virtually. And I used to laugh at people say, they won't accept my invitation unless we shook hands personally. I'm like, well, that's going to limit your business. But now I'm thinking that's the better way to go right now. A virtual handshake, at least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I don't know them and I don't see the relation, I'll, in fact, the funny thing is the ones that personalize the invitations are the ones I stay away from because they're probably using an automation tool to send that personalized note, as you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if they're I've always had the idea that if they're in the same industry or there's some connection, I will connect. But I get people like website agencies or, sometimes SEO.
Yeah.
Or you look at the title, it's like, we help agency owners, generate 8-figure revenue. And when I look at the headline, often I can tell, okay, they're going to try to sell to me. I'm not interested.
Right.
So I think a little bit of common sense will help you navigate through the people that you might consider connecting with and others that you may not want to.
Yeah. I like to reach out to people to engage with my content. Like if I see someone keeps commenting on my content, then I'll start a conversation with them. But blindly reaching out like to other marketers, it's like, no, you're going to sell me marketing services.
Yeah, it's funny because part of my market are marketers, right? Marketers who want to up their game. Sometimes they work at agencies. Obviously, entrepreneurs and business owners are another part of my market. But yeah, marketers, they want to know how to do their job better, and they might be tapping into my content. So, in some ways they're competitors, but in many ways, if I can add value to them, then that's another market that I recognize. So yeah, so for me, it's a little bit different. For me, it's salespeople, right? I don't really sell to salespeople. So when salespeople reach out to me, that's where it's like, there might be a disconnect here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You just got to kind of look at their headline, look at their profile, and you can guess pretty much most of the time if they're going to sell you something.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So how are you, Ted, on the, I talked about that content creation. How are you on that? Or you pretty much, you have your mastermind, you have your content, you have your LinkedIn, and that is sufficient for your needs. Is that where you're at right now?
Yeah. I'm not looking to build a huge business with lots of employees at this stage. It's working out really well. But if you're trying to scale your business, run ads and have, different approach.
Sure. I'm just really competitive. So it's like, why aren't I ranking for this keyword? My content's better. So yeah, I sort of take SEO personally, but yeah, that's how I scale. Just, and I started blogging about LinkedIn back in 2008, and it's like, wow, I have people from all over the world that, I can network virtually 24/7 with this content, and that's always what's driven me to, to do more and more blogs. So yeah, that's and for me, I'm a speaker. Now the presentations are virtual, but I love podcasting. I love just, speaking on a topic on a weekly basis, interviewing, smart people out there. And so you need, for whatever you do, you need a personal ROI. And that really, that's my personal ROI. So
yeah, I kind of had a switch before this, the pandemic, just before that. It's like, okay, I don't need to push so hard in my business. I'm kind of at that comfortable level. Retirement's a few years down the road here, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good place to be.
So I'm kind of in a different mindset than I was even a year ago.
Yeah,
so
and I think
what you want to accomplish, what goal you want with all this content we're creating, and drive them to your website like you do.
Yeah, you've been successful at really creating a sticky B2C digital product, for lack of a better description, right?
Yeah.
And that can help you do exactly that. And that's, I'm pretty close to launching my own. I've since we last talked, I've gone through a few iterations. I'm hoping next week to actually make an announcement on my podcast into my list of looking for beta members. So yeah, and if I can see how if that's successful, I'm going to be in the same mindset you're in, right? Whether it's speaking or consulting. And I do have clients that stay on with me for a few years that I'm very, very thankful for. But there's still this concept of you always need to fill the funnel, right? And therefore you always need to be hustling, always creating content, what have you. But if you have that sticky piece of digital content with people that you go overboard to make them happy and give them value, and they remain with you for a long time, I mean, and then you can just focus on them, right? I mean, that's awesome. Right. That's actually ideal.
Yeah. So what's your new book?
Well, I haven't had time to write it for all the reasons I've discussed.
Well, what's your latest book? I know you haven't.
Yeah, well, my latest book is this one. It came out in I'm not sure if I gave you a copy at Social Media Marketing World, but yeah, so that came out March 17th of last year. Perfect timing, right?
Yeah.
2 days before lockdown here in California. But that's a book about influencer marketing, and it really, it helped me redefine the way that companies should look at social media. But to me, I've sort of moved on from that book. And when I talk about things, my thought process about influencers moved on. But it's funny because a lot of the new clients I've gotten since that started, they wanted to hire me because of the influencer marketing piece. But as I started to audit what they were doing from a digital perspective, they were missing a lot of pieces. They didn't have blog content. They weren't doing SEO. They weren't doing email marketing. And therefore, I've been working on just general digital, but also realizing that, with coronavirus, just these things that we took for granted before are critical. I mean, how else are you going to reach your customer unless you do so digitally? And I think a lot of that's going to remain even after the pandemic's gone. So, I want to create, based on the work that I've been doing over the last year, basically a playbook, right? Of a digital marketing playbook, but with not like you would have learned like 10 years ago from a boring blog post, but really, in 2021 with the coronavirus and with the after effects of that, and also understanding the value of influencers and of relationships and of engagement, really provide a blueprint for business owners, entrepreneurs, marketers. And that's sort of my passion. And I have conceptualized the book. I've talked to the guy who helped me launch the Age of Influence. And, it's something where if I pull the trigger, within a few weeks, I'll have a launch page up, pre-orders, and I'll reach out to my publisher. But I'm not there yet. I'm actually revamping my website right now. I just moved from ActiveCampaign to ConvertKit, so revamping my email, and then I want to launch this. I'm always a busybody, and then I want to launch this new product, which is more like a community type of product, like you have.
Yeah.
And I actually want that product to help me in book creation by testing out the ideas I have and seeing how people respond and seeing what their needs are, making sure it's included in the book. So I almost see that as a necessary step to create a better book. But
you're kind of crowdsourcing your next book.
Yeah, well, I'm validating ideas, right? And there's a need to do that. So yeah, that's sort of my, and maybe by the end of Q1, if I can get that book proposal out there, that would be, it'll be a year since I published my last book. That's sort of the cadence I want every 2 years to provide something new. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, but always lots of exciting things stirring around here.
And what's the name of your podcast and your website?
Podcast is Maximize Your Social Influence. And, like I said, it's for, marketers, entrepreneurs, business owners that want to better leverage digital influence. And then my website, neilschaefer.com. You can see my name here. So it's Neil Schaefer everywhere on social media, and it's spelled exactly like you see there. So can't miss it.
Thanks, Neil. It's great catching up with you.
Thank you, my friend.